Now we'll talk about the design process. The first thing I always do when I'm creating a design is create a base plan or a site analysis. So go out to the property, measure everything in great detail. For me, after 30 years of measuring projects, I've measured thousands of projects, I will still spend between 1 and 4 hours measuring a site. The second step in the design process is laying out the hardscape, which would be the walks, the walls, the patios, the pools, water features, anything like that. The third step is creating the planting bed, the space you're going to fill with plants. I'll always start by placing the bigger things first, the trees, then think about the shrubs, then kind of fine-tune everything with perennials, grasses, and ground covers, making sure that we have all the seasons covered and a very cohesive thought in the design process. When selecting plants, I always start with looking at the height, what season they bloom in. Also, what size are they going to be? The 3rd year, the 5th year, the 7th year, the 10th year, the 25th year. Plants will grow, and they'll grow at different rates. Perennials will mature in a year or two, where shrubs might take 5 to 10 years to mature, where trees can take 10 to 50 years to mature. Height and variety. We want to create interest by changing forms, colors, textures, line, or scale. So here you can see we started out with some low plants in front. These were the 3-leaf sumac. Then as we move back to the next, we have like a forsythia, a broom, a lilac. Then to add some contrast, we have a Diablo 9 bark, some barberries. There's a purple plum in the very background. And then we had Ganala maple and a fat Albert spruce to give it some height. And this is also adding another term called the borrowed view, where we're borrowing the neighbor's trees. So you can't see where the property line ends from this vantage point. It looks like the yard just goes on forever. And here we did the same thing, but on a smaller scale. So we have low ground covers, Turkish Veronica, and then we had the next level, which was some Autumn Joy Sedum, and here you can see the Maynite Salvia really taking off. We had some daylilies. I think this was Creeping Phlox, and some lupine. Then here was the same. We had some Mexican Evening Primrose, some Black-Eyed Susans, followed by some Agastache, and then in the back, some Dark Night Spirea. Seasons. This is a before picture for this project. And here you can see spring. We have some Turkish Veronica. Again, some Autumn Joy Sedum, some Gold Flame Spirea, some variegated iris, the aspen we worked around, and we had a big hillside, so we kind of made this nice raised planting area. And then as the summer went on, the irises were blooming, so this was probably in June, and you can see some of the other flowers. And then by fall, that Autumn Joy Sedum was gorgeous. The Agastache was gorgeous. And so it has this nice transition throughout the season. There's always something blooming. So in summer, feel like the space is enclosed, it's kind of inward oriented. Here we have evergreen and some deciduous plants. But then in the winter, we have the evergreen trees, and then the deciduous plants lose their leaves, which give you a view past those shrubs, which expands that view. That's always something to think about when you're planting and selecting plants. Growth. So here's a project as it was first installed, and here you can see right after it was planted. About 5 years later, you can see everything is really filled in and just looking fantastic. And then here you can see even at a later date, you can see this tree has really grown up, and this globe spruce is really taking on some size. So you can see it's really important to plan how large things are going to get as the landscape matures. And in a final picture, you can really see how big everything has gotten. This was probably at the 10-year mark. There's a saying in landscaping that the first year they sleep, the second year they creep, and the third year they leap. In the old days, I'm thinking pre-2007, before the 2008 crash of everything, people tended to move about every 5 years. So most landscape designers were thinking about landscapes that would mature in 5 years to get the best resale for their clients. Now, we're typically staying in our houses for 10, 15 years, even longer. It's important to note that perennial gardens will typically only last about 5 to 7 years at the most. So we're talking more shrubs, trees, the shape of the lawn, things like that when we're designing. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Please let me know if you have any questions. My website is www.blackforestco.net.